The Front Row Back Row podcast is a show where two grad school buddies discuss physical therapy entrepreneurship. I helped guide a company to an 8-figure exit, and I'm now starting my own mobile company. Brian grew his mobile practice to 4 clinics, and he's now doing $1 million in revenue. Join us as we help you grow your own business.
Okay.
Hello and welcome to the Front Row Back Row podcast. My name is Dr. Owen Campbell, and with me, as always, is Dr. Brian Wolf. And together, we are Physio Growth. We run a mentorship community. You should check it out. You've probably heard about it by now, but if not, check out the show notes. We'll talk about it later. So, in today's episode, we are going to be talking marketing and how to get new patients. And we have put out a few episodes recently on AI, on some of these new ways of optimizing things. We've always been big proponents of Meta ads, Google ads, any sort of paid advertising. But today I want to really bring it back down because of a conversation that we had in our mentorship group where a new hire was coming in for one of our mentees. And the question was, how do we market this person? How do we get them going? And honestly, with all the stuff she was asking, what about AI? What about this? What about that? And it came down to boots on the ground marketing, right? Your simple word of mouth, your simple getting out, shaking hands, kissing babies, as they call it in politics, getting out there and making sure that you have these relationships. And it got me to thinking, Brian, we have a whole marketing strategy, but what are the percentages, right? So in my head now, as I'm a cash-based physical therapist in Phoenix, coming from the corporate world where we had Meta ads and we had blog posts and like all these different things, I'm really seeing the most results from like talking to people, and they tell their friends, right?
Imagine that.
And it's amazing. It's like legit. It's almost free, you know.
Almost free.
So let's talk about that. Either in her situation, obviously my situation, and then someone more advanced where you got 5, hopefully going on 6 clinics. I forget what number you're at. But these, as it goes through the continuum, what is important for our listeners to understand about what they should be putting their marketing time into?
I think a lot of it comes down, man, when you think about this process, is that basically when people think about like boots on the ground marketing versus like Meta ads or Google ads or stuff like that, I think a lot of the thought process is, well, time is money. And so therefore, if I'm putting money in and putting it in the ads and doing that kind of stuff and seeing the results and tracking it, like that's the type of thing that I think people consider, well, it's the boots on the ground stuff is not having the same ROI, right? But I think the other part is it's just not as sexy as you say like, oh, Google ads or like putting money into things and getting patients back. Like again, like Owen said, I'm a gigantic proponent of paid advertising. I've been that since day one of me starting my business. That being said, you know what's free or doesn't really cost nearly as much? Getting your butt out there and meeting people like Owen was talking about. So I also think from a foundational perspective, it creates a great foundation for any business. If ultimately what you're doing is you're saying, hey, I can, meet so-and-so and give them a free session or have them come in, or can they connect with this person who can refer me, blah, blah, blah. Like you were talking about this, tell the story a little bit about the naturopath and how that kind of occurred. Like, cause I think that's a huge piece for a lot of people that again, is the ROI that keeps on giving, right?
Well, and this is it. In our mentorship group, one of the members asked me, well, what are you doing? Right. And for background, I had a lot of experience in corporate PT, right? Before coming into this is what I bring to the table for Physio Growth. Brian built his company, on word of mouth, paid ads, things like that. So she asked me, and I think Brian, you were on vacation, and she was asking, what's your budget for paid ads? What's this? And I was like, right now, $0, because I haven't squeezed enough juice out of the word of mouth advertising at this point, right? And a good example of that is what you're referencing, where I am in a BNI group, and a lot of our listeners know what BNI is, but for those who don't, it's just a networking referral group. It's a bigger one across the United States and the world. And what I did was I have a 58 member group, and I told every single one of them 2 appointments for free, you or your immediate family. I don't want you giving it to your like cousin and that you never talk to. And the entire point of that, everyone thought I was crazy. The entire point of that was so that either A, if they didn't have the money to afford my services, I could at least help them out, right? They would at least be able to tell maybe a friend or a client who has the money that I don't suck, and this is why he fixed my shoulder, whatever, right? I did 2 visits so I could evaluate, and then have that first crucial kind of follow-up visit to really understand what was going on. But the other part of that is it got people trusting me, right? So probably about a quarter of those people took me up on it. I've maybe done about 20 sessions to this point, right? Maybe there'll be more. Actually, I haven't even done that. That's scheduled, right? And the people are talking about, in a month or two. So it's not like it's slammed my schedule in a day. And the key point of that is I say, well, what can I give you? And I say, get up in front of the group and tell them how awesome I am. So they do that and they tell the group how awesome I am. And this week, the two naturopaths in the group, one's a IV nutrition person and the other one is the seat for the naturopath, are sending me patients because they're like, well, we trust you. You're like our only one. And it's because everyone else in that group who they trust is like, oh yeah, no, he definitely like fixed my back, or, I feel like I have a better golf swing or whatever it is. So that alone cost me just time and spending money. Right.
100%.
And now I have a referring physician who's all his patients are cash pay anyway. So like, there you go. That's gold for a cash pay only mobile PT.
100%. I think a big piece of this, right, is when you think about, any of the things that we just talked about, what Owen was doing was basically he's earning the trust of customers and future customers, and then people who are referral partners. Mm-hmm. So ultimately what it does that you can't do through social media really well, or you can, but you got to do it through content creation, and a lot of content creation, which just takes way more time, which is earn trust. So the reality is when it comes to being in a group or networking or giving away, free service, you ultimately can create a lot of trust that way. And so that's the great part about any type of networking and any type of groups, because I think when you're first starting out, but not even when you're first starting out, any type of advertising, it's how can I accelerate my word of mouth? And so if you're thinking to yourself, I think Owen asked me this, you asked me the ratio, right? What's the ratio of how I do different things and blah, blah. Yeah. Well, what I would do is I would say, okay, let me look at my overall amount of money I have that I can spend on marketing, right? Let me see how I can spend money in different places or what I'm going to do. And so ultimately what I'm going to look at is I'm going to say, okay, what accelerates my word of mouth? I think there's different places of where people are. From $0 to $100,000, you need to be like, how do I accelerate my word of mouth to get more people to pay for my services? Right? Yep. That's when you start. Then from 100,000 to $1 million, it's now, okay, how do I market in all the different channels as best as possible to get to $1 million? Once you get to $1 million, now you're also realizing, all right, how do I optimize more people? Is it a networking and leads problem? Is it a fulfillment problem, meaning I need more PTs or more other people to help me? Is it different strategies that I need to implement? Like that's the next piece, because I think you got to think about how each one of those go. And paid advertising, networking, boots on the ground, creating referral partners, like these are all cold calling. We've all talked about all these different services, creating content. All these are great marketing strategies. The answer is, how do you continue to build, year over year by implementing all these services? And a lot of it is just like, again, not just time, but also accelerating word of mouth. That's a big piece of it.
And if you like this info, by the way, please tell a friend. Word of mouth, best way to grow a podcast.
Exactly.
Tell everybody, tell all your PTs that you know. But this is something I want to touch on a little bit though, and dig a little bit deeper. Is we're physical therapists, right? We have a different model than a software company, right, or a cookie making company, right? So we don't have to spend a heck of a lot on a moonshot like software does. But the reason, they might give advice of like, oh, if you're not making 100 to 1, every dollar you spend, you're making $100, then it's a waste of time. All the way down to the cookie company that might be happy to clear 2 to 1, because of how much they got to pay. Right. And to get. So I think it's important to think, we sell interactions with people, right? We sell the fact that when I interact with you for an hour, you will come out of that feeling better. Right. So there's a big time component to what we do. So PTs, I think, really do. It is. And I've said this before. It is not, if you're a good therapist, it is not terribly hard to fill your schedule as a cash pay PT. Like, I'd love to say that I'm some genius, but a year and a half, I have a full schedule. And it's almost entirely because, like, when I treat people, they get better.
I can definitely confirm that Owen is not a genius.
Yes.
I'm kidding. No, I mean,
go back to the college days, right?
Exactly. I think you can nail it, right? Like you nailed it. There is ultimately the biggest piece with this is when you think about like the scaling process, because if you're somebody who's been around an area for a while and you just keep doing the thing that you're doing over and over again, like what Paul Sting said this, you don't need to create a market in your niche for physical therapy. You are in a market with a skill that people want to pay for, right?
Yeah, with
Which
a
is,
barrier, right? That you need a license.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So the reality of it is like it's not like tech where you got to create a whole new market for things that
Mhm.
people didn't necessarily want. You have to get early adopters that want certain things. Like that's what you have to do, right? In this particular scenario, it's different. It's more unique. So I think
Mhm.
that's where I should say that actually. I guess it's not as unique. That's kind of probably what to describe it. It's like really people will know, have a general purpose of what we do, and have an understanding of what value we provide them, right?
Mhm.
So in my mind, I think a lot of it is like, where do you want to take your business? Where do you want to scale it?
Yep.
And you can always come back to creating relationships and referral partners and things along those lines too. So I think,
Uh,
think about who, like, me and I want to talk about this for referral partners for golf stuff, like talking with golf pros, talking with shops, talking with go to golf courses,
mhm.
right? Talking with, people who are involved in physical therapy places that don't do anything with golf, right? Like there's
Right.
so many different doctors that, want have
Yeah.
golfers, right? There's so many different places of where if you're just constantly creating that narrative, you can do a lot that way for
Well,
sure.
and the constantly creating the narrative thing, I think, is massive, right?
Yeah.
Because when I first started this out and we were talking about niching, right? I was like, well, I mean, I'm not a professional golfer. And some of the other golf guys were like D1 players and then they went to grad school and got their PT degree. And I'll
Yeah.
never, no, I just banged on about golf and social media and BNI events and random interactions with friends, family, whatever. And I said, yep, I treat golfers, I treat golfers, I treat golfers.
Yeah.
Now I'm just getting people calling me like, hey, you're the golf guy, fix this. Right.
Yeah.
So it's literally, and, I would love to say again, it's not genius. It's just sticking to something and not letting up, just biting and not letting go. Right.
Yep.
And that's the secret to, I think, a lot of stuff. And I think if I looked at your clinic, right, if I was to walk into one of your clinics, maybe one of your older clinics, right, and said, okay, how many of these people are here because of word of mouth, boots on the ground, like people talking to people, not paid ads, not cold calling, not all that stuff. I'm still going to bet, even at 5 clinics doing 2 million a year, you're probably, I mean, I'm just going to hazard a guess, probably about 70% of those people are people that were either past patients, friends were past patients, like they knew you through marketing or whatever, or through networking. So even at the bigger scales, like it still matters, right? Um,
100%.
I mean, a
I
polar bear
mean,
doesn't sell me Coke. It's the fact that my mom bought it when I was younger and I loved
yeah.
it.
Well, and that's a good question. That's a good thing, right? So for that marketing, because that's paid advertising dollars, like how does that help you in comparison? Well,
Mhm.
what it does is it puts in your forefront of your mind that Coca-Cola is a soda,
Yep.
right? So the same thing when it comes to different advertising, all it does is put in the forefront of like, oh, that company, right?
Mhm.
Oh, that thing. Oh, you know what? Golf season is around the corner, right? And so to your point about products too, the one thing, and not to get crazy political, freaking out about all these tariffs and stuff. Guess
Mhm.
what? We're 100% American made. It's a service. So the reality
Yeah.
is here. So it's like you don't have to worry about, there's always pros and cons to all these things, right? It's not like the good news is like people have asked me, oh, is a rocky, stock market hurt your business? I'm like, not really, because people need, COVID did, obviously. That was a whole different
Yeah.
scenario. They said, hey, stay inside. So the reality of the rest of this is like, we don't have a product as much as a service. And so realize that like the
But
service that you're providing is what you bill it to be, right?
but the
So
recession didn't hurt us. I
no,
mean, we both were in school during the recession, but we know our bosses first coming out, they're like, "Oh, the recession was awesome."
I
You
know,
know, people
100%.
people still needed PT, and I mean, all the money that started flowing into physical therapy started flowing in the recession because it was the only sector. Healthcare was the only sector that wasn't going down.
For
Now,
sure, for
outside of
sure.
a pandemic, pretty much any other disaster, like physical therapy is going to be okay. So this is where
Yeah.
like I feel more confident spending time doing the networking groups. I'm looking for different networking groups to get into now because I'm seeing the results now. And you talked about this
Nice.
before where, you feel your parachute opening a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Like you're falling, falling, falling. And then all of a sudden, oh, whoa, okay, I'm getting something, right? And that's where I'm at least from like the early stage of marketing, all the investments I did in the first year. Now it's like, oh, okay, I am the golf PT now. I have people just calling me out of nowhere instead of me hounding them, so it's a long game, but once it's set, it's set and forget it.
100%, man. And the thing, like, as you get more discretionary income and you're like, hey, I want to tinker with, I want to tinker with paid advertising and doing that stuff. That's when I would start using it, because the reality is, like, your time is the cheapest resource. Even though people say, well, your time, it's X amount of money and blah, blah, blah. Like, forget that. Like, that's not like you and I sitting in our chair, we were making $0. That's how much our time's worth, right? Yeah. Unless you are, I mean, again, it's not about like when people say, oh, it's worth this amount of money, but no one's paying you that at that moment. So because no one's paying you at that moment, it's worth nothing. So if you're going to go make $100, $150, give it away for free. It's not a big deal, right? Like, I probably give more away for free now than I ever have. You know what I mean? So I think that's a huge piece of it. So,
anyway, well, and as you get bigger and bigger, the targets get bigger and bigger. Like, you might give away, a full treatment session, but you're a full like kind of plan of care, but you're working privately with the CEO of some company that may sign on for corporate wellness across like three businesses.
Exactly,
something like that, where you just level up what you can leverage your time for.
100%. 100%. We do that with a group where I kind of hook up one of the owners with some free treatment stuff here and there, and yeah, they give us a ton of business through the business, right, for teams and stuff. So it works really well in that capacity. So I've always been a big believer in that stuff. Actually, as you get bigger, the more you give away for free, the better. Usually. You know what I mean?
And that's it. You have that buffer that you can take it, right? And now I'm at a point where if every month is like the last 2 months, I'll have a decent buffer, right? So then you can say, okay, do I want to do some paid ads so I can hire somebody else and get them starting right away? Do I put it away so I can get a location? Like, then it really comes out. So anyway, we could probably ramble on forever, but
for sure, the riff.
But
tell your friends. For all your
we haven't recorded in real lifetime. We haven't recorded in like 2 weeks. So Brian and I are basically sketching.
I know, exactly. So for those of you guys who like this stuff, again, we help people see the angles and do the things they need to do to grow their businesses and also like level up their careers. Whether you're insurance based or cash based. Tell your friends. Again, they think about, you're our referral partner. So for us, if you can tell your friends about our podcast, please click the follow button. It's the best thing that could ever happen to us. So appreciate your time and doing that stuff and listening to us.
And check the link in the show notes. Join our mentorship group.
Love it.
All right, cool. Buddy. See ya.
All right. See ya.